Hello, everybody. Good morning. Oh, my hair. Let me see. Admit all. Here we go. Can you hear me, everybody? Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Linda.
Hello. Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
We have the same hairstyle today. I put my hair back because it's just so long and so hard to handle. I just thought I've got to put it back today.
That's how I feel about my hair.
Oh my gosh, it just gets so unmanageable sometimes. Oh yeah, right, exactly. So
yeah, it's just too much.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to cut it. So I mean, I love my long hair, but it just, I don't know. I just felt like putting it back, and it's been kind of nippy here in the mornings here in Phoenix. And I now it's getting warmer, so I'm getting sort of hot, but I'm just going to push through it. Anyway, let's see. I want to admit, I'm going to be working on admitting a lot of people right now. I have to focus on that and make sure that once the class starts, we want to mute their audio, because sometimes people are doing things, you know, at the same time listening, multitasking. And I understand that. It's just that it interferes with everybody else's interest in learning. So let's see. So we have Aisha and me, and I can't read all the rest of the people here. Oh, Chioma. Hello, Chioma. Oh, she's from Nigeria, I think. So we've got some, this must be later for them. It's 10 o'clock here in the morning, and it's 1 o'clock in New York and 12 o'clock in Central. And hello, Chioma. How are you? Finally, we meet.
Fine, thank you. Fine, thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too. I was just saying that I put my hair back this morning because it's just giving me trouble. I want to talk a little bit about, I'm going to go ahead and start class. I want to talk a little bit about oh yeah, Chioma, can you mute your computer?
Okay.
Because otherwise we can't, everybody can't hear. Okay, great. So this chapter is called Color Me Green. This is what it looks like. And this is a very long chapter, so I might have to just cut it in half and then do another one next Sunday. But let's see how far we can get. But what I wanted to talk to you today, particularly about, number one, is we talk a lot about the power of greens. I mean, Jay says two things, which is so valuable. When you're green inside, you're clean inside, right? Well, I think what he really meant by that is not green literally, but green like greening, thinking, you know, the green of the planet, keeping greens in your family, in your kitchen, like your plants, keeping plants there, having trees in the backyard that produce fruit, and then also drinking greens. But as most juice therapists would say, and this is why this class is so important, is that juice therapists, the greatest juice therapists in the world, were people like Dr. Max Gerson and Dr. Norman Walker. These, and Arnold Ehret to some extent back in the 1920s. And these therapists spent their whole life researching, and they never talked about solid green juicing. And this is why I wanted to bring this up this morning, is because it's not really that healthy for us to be juicing 100% greens. Why? I'll tell you why. There's 3 or 4 really good reasons. Number one, it can hurt the thyroid in women because our thyroids are very sensitive to things like oxalates and the compounds and chemicals in these green juices that can throw our thyroid off. And our thyroid is our main gland. And if you have challenges with your thyroid, I love taking a product called Detoxidine, and it's from globalhealing.com. Love that company. And I take a few drops every day just to kind of keep my health in shape. And if you know this pandemic that we're in, they say that iodine is important to the body. The other reason why we don't want to be juicing 100% greens is because it can hurt our kidneys. Believe it or not, the oxalates in the juices and even in the cooked greens, they can cause kidney stones and they can cause actual kidney challenges. I mean, real problems. So we have to be careful. And as Americans, what we do in America is we overdo it. We go, oh, green juicing. And this started to become popular right around 2010, 2008, something like that. Wow, green is good. That means green is better. More greens are better. Green thinking is really good, but doing too many greens is just not a balanced lifestyle. And Jay never recommended juicing 100% greens because he was taught by the great late master juicing teachers that rainbow juicing is the key. And that would mean that we're juicing things like on the rainbow, carrots, bell peppers, beets, apples, and greens. So when we create a rainbow style of a juice, we're creating balance, and we're also allowing the body to really assimilate these nutrients in a balanced way. If we do too many greens at once, it throws the body instantly into detoxification. Now, I made this juice just now, this morning. This is carrot, spinach, beet. And the reason why I did is because last night I went out to dinner with some friends. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is because it's pretty typical for probably all of us. And I haven't been out to dinner in probably, I don't know, a year. And I was with some girlfriends, and they ordered a bunch of all kinds of different kinds of foods. It was like a Thai restaurant. But there was a lot of cooked foods in it, and I ate with them. And I woke up this morning, and I ate late. I just totally betrayed all of our teachings. Don't eat cooked food late at night. Don't eat too much cooked food, period. And then we had like a dessert that we shared. Now that's kind of fun to do 3 or 4 times a year. Yes, but our body suffers. So my body is used to eating a really purified diet. So what happens to us, and what should we do when, we overdo it? So what happens, as we know, if we overdo it, is our eyes are puffy. It's hard to get up in the morning. We feel lethargic. Our face looks puffy all around, particularly under our eyes, which I did have very puffy eyes this morning. And I also had a headache, which is very, very unlike me. Usually, I'm up at 5:36 in the morning. I feel energetic. I'm ready to start juicing or making a smoothie or something. And I really had a hard time. I couldn't even feel good until like 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. So that's right. This was night before last. That's right. So the best thing to do to mitigate that is in the morning, immediately start with like a carrot green juice, particularly carrot beet. Throw some greens in there. You might want to throw some garlic or some fresh ginger, and really start to feed the body, and let the juices feed the body and start to detoxify the congested foods that are in your intestines, because it takes a good 24 hours to eliminate foods from our body. So I would suggest juicing, 3 times a day in particular. I'd say this is about 30 ounces, maybe 32. And I'll drink this after class today, or maybe throughout class. And then I'll do another one in a couple of hours, and another one tonight, and then a really light salad with no oil. So that'll get you back on track. So when you wake up in the morning, bingo, okay? You'll be really good to go. All right, so I took notes today because there is just so much to talk about. Okay, so in this chapter, Color Me Green, we talk about the importance of greens. Now, why are greens important? Because there's a thing called photosynthesis, and I want to read this to you because this is so important. And if you don't have my book, all the more important to listen, because this is what Jay says. It's just a few paragraphs. Most of my entire life, now this is in Jay's voice, I have been saying all life on planet Earth emanates from the green of the plant. What do I mean by this? First, I would like to say we underestimate the power of the sun and the power of plant life, because quite frankly, most of us do not understand the relationship between the two. And it's true, especially as Americans. When I grew up as a little girl, my grandmother had a huge garden. She was from Norway. I had elderly grandparents who lived with my family my whole life. And we had a huge, huge garden, berries and fruits and vegetables and greens and things like that. But for most Americans, growing up in the 60s or 70s or 80s, it wasn't until the 90s that we really started to wake up and start to garden. So this is why we don't understand the dynamic and the mystical relationship between our sun and our plant life and how it affects our being. So plants are the real factories of life. Through photosynthesis, plants with their roots deeply planted into the ground draw these inorganic elements, which is the soil, and minerals from the soil, beautifully and naturally converts them into what I like to call the life force. Well, what is the life force? The life force is that magic ingredient that happens, and mysterious ingredient that happens between the sunshine and the plant. There is a union there. There is a divine relationship there. There is a synergy. There is something magical. When you think about seeds, seeds carry the intelligence of life itself in it. Did we create the seeds? No, God created the seeds. Our Heavenly Father created the seeds. Whatever you want to call it, the universal spirit, they create the magic in those seeds, and those seeds are precious. And those seeds have the intelligence in them to burst forth its knowledge, its wisdom, and its ability to serve the plant life and serve other plant life and serve us as humans. And through the photosynthesis, what happens is that the plant comes up through the soil, converts the inorganic minerals and vitamins and compounds and the yet unidentified nutrients and compounds we have yet to discover. We come through the soil and up out of the soil and into the sun. And through that photosynthesis, what happens is that now all those inorganic compounds that we couldn't digest or assimilate as a human now become active. And when they become active, the best thing we can do is consume those greens in its natural state, because we are the only animal or human, I guess you could say, that really cooks their food. All other animals, they don't. When you look at the chimpanzees or the gorillas or all the animals that are closely related to humans, they eat predominantly plant life. They don't cook it, they don't alter it. So I'll just finish here with this one part with Jay says, this photosynthesis is utilized perfectly by humans, including animals who consume them. Our great Mother Earth sustains all human life and nurtures us, including our lakes and rivers, streams, oceans, and plant life. Plants with their roots embedded deeply into the ground, be it the tree trunk or the blade of a single grass, do what no other animal or human can do, and that is to bathe our 60 trillion cells with highly oxygenated and highly powerful green juices, which, by the way, is almost identical to the human blood in its structure. So, and the same thing can be said for carrots. Carrot juice and green juices are almost identical to the structure of our human blood. What does that tell us? That tells us this is a highly compatible to our bloodstream. This is why, after eating a lot of cooked food when was it? Was it last night or the night before? I can't remember. This was important. This is important to get these into our bloodstream. Okay. So let's see here. I wanted to talk. Does anybody have any questions right now? You'd have to unmute yourself if you have any questions. Okay, so I'm going to continue. So what are the greens? Now, in this, interestingly, in this chapter, I did not say what the greens were, but in the next chapter, I list them when I talk about what's in our living kitchen. So, but I'm going to talk about it today. So the dark greens that we don't want to be juicing strictly are the spinach, bok choy, cilantro, parsley, Swiss chard, which would mean either the rainbow or the green or the red, purslane, which is really popular in the UK. We don't see it much here in the United States, but this is really good green for us, by the way, really, really good for us. Then there's dandelion greens, collard greens, alfalfa greens, kale, and turnip greens. So these are the ones that we always want to combine with our carrots. And then also there's some other greens that we can use as inside of our juice combinations. Things like green zucchini, that's okay because the green is pretty white on the inside and it's only the skin that's very dark. This is an excellent vegetable that we don't talk enough about as juice therapists, and I'm really a big fan of them. So I love the combining with the zucchini and also celery and cucumber. These three are awesome in vegetable juice combinations. And let's say you don't want the carrot, okay? Let's say that you don't want the carrot. If you don't want the carrot juice, then go ahead and use either the celery or the cucumber or the zucchini as a substitute. Will it be green? Yes, but it's not going to be very dark green if you're combining things like beets or apples, for example. Apples are an excellent fruit to mix with any vegetable juice combination or any fruit combination. And I've said before, but I'm going to say it again right now. And that is that apples are compatible with all fruits and vegetables in any format because they're a neutral fruit. They're not acidic and they're not too alkaline. They're neutral. And so therefore it doesn't interfere with the absorption of all these compounds that are coming into our bloodstream. And this is a very important juice therapy rule, I guess you could say. And hardly anybody are following it because they haven't really been taught juice therapy, I guess the Bible of juice therapy. And the reason why they haven't is because as Americans, we just got into this thing so quickly. We didn't really understand or go backwards to our great late master teachers who knew exactly how to combine these fruits and vegetables. And the same thing goes with food combining. If you have trouble losing weight, get into food combining. This is really valuable because you don't want the proteins and the starches to be mixed in together. And when it comes to juicing, you don't want acids and alkalines to be mixing in together because it triggers also incompatibility. Okay, so let's see here. Now there's things that are lettuces. So things like lettuces like romaine, red leaf, baby field greens, head lettuce, arugula, and butter lettuce. These lettuces are different than dark leafy greens. You can juice these alone. You can mix them with celery. You can mix them with cucumber. You can mix them with zucchini, for example. This is a very good drink in case you're bloated. So I didn't feel bloated. I just felt puffy, and that will also help reduce the puffiness. This is the reason why we put cucumbers under our eyes. You know, they're filled with natural mineral waters. Okay, and these mineral waters are so valuable to the entire bloodstream and body and our organs. Okay, then I think in a couple of chapters, I'll be talking a lot about sprouting. Sprouting is really valuable for anybody, especially if you have young children or grandchildren, and they want to learn more about the kitchen and about natural foods or just cooking in general. You can start sprouting, and it's a wonderful, wonderful experience to get them involved, especially with juicing too. I mean, juicing, oh my gosh. I can't tell you every single person I've ever come to visit with Jay too. If they had children, man, they were like, oh, this looks like fun. And they would get in the chair and they'd look at it, can I do it? You know? And so this gets them emotionally involved. Also, their interest is very intriguing to them. And this will also get them involved in maybe just trying some of these vegetable juices. Now, would they eat them cooked on the plate? No. But if you get them involved with the juicing is very sweet, especially when you're using the carrot. And they will be pleasantly surprised. And there's one drink called the ABC drink, apple, beet, carrot. I've never seen a child not like it. Now I remember seeing a couple of kids go, ooh, and then they go, oh, you know, so used to saying, ooh. So you get them involved. They love it. And sprouting can also be a wonderful experience. It's like the chia pet, if you know anything about the chia pet, kids love that. Of course, we're not eating anything of the chia pet, but it's the same process. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about are the dark green powders. So I might getting a little ahead of myself, but the dark green powders are in them. I want to talk about this because I'm on the green thing. So things like powdered wheatgrass or powdered barley grass or spirulina or chlorella, these are all exceptionally powerful green powders. Now, do I use them? Yes, I do, but I use them sparingly in my smoothies. And the reason why I do is because they're just incredibly good blood cleansers. See, a healthy bloodstream is a healthy heart. A healthy bloodstream is healthy kidneys, healthy liver. Our number one organ of the body is the liver. Our largest organ of the body is our skin. So when our blood is clean, our organs are working efficiently. This is really important. And these super, super dark powdered greens are good. Now, are they the same as, let's say, a vegetable juice drink where we're using fresh basil as an herb or fresh parsley with carrots and beets and celery and cucumber and all that? Not really, because they've been isolated, okay? They've been taken out of their context. They've been, who knows how they've been freeze-dried. I mean, they're freeze-dried or air-dried or whatever it was. We are losing a lot of the life force, but there's certain things that really will stay with us. Like there's minerals do not die with the heat. And some of the vitamins don't die with heat. I mean, obviously things like vitamin C die immediately once you expose them to air or even heat them for that matter. So things like mustard greens, wheatgrass, chlorella. I'm just going to get to it right now because I don't want to miss anything. Okay, so we have chlorella, green barley, spirulina, wheatgrass, bee pollen. These are really powerful. Bee pollen is excellent. And now, if you're a confirmed vegan and you don't want to do bee pollen or honey, that's fine. I understand. But I do it, and bee pollen is exceptionally high in B vitamins. If you're a vegan or you're vegetarian and you're low in B vitamins, even if you're not a vegetarian, bee pollen is incredible. And it's also good for energy as well. It won't, obviously it won't give you a high like coffee will. You don't want to ever drink coffee. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is on page 28, liquid greens are the key to the life force. Okay, now there's a healing clinic in Europe called the Bersher Benner Clinic, and they say this, and I put this note down here. The reason why I'm reading a little bit in this particular chapter is because it's just so much good stuff, and I really want to read it to you because the best way to learn is to continue to read the same thing over and over again, because then it gets into our mind. And when our mind really clicks into it, then we're going to take action. When we take action, then we're going to actually get places in life. Okay, so it says here, absorption and organization of sunlight, the essence of life, takes place almost exclusively within the plants. The organs of the plants are therefore a biological accumulation of light. They are the basis of what we call food, from whence the animal and human body derive their sustenance and energy. Nutritional energy may thus be termed organized sunlight energy. Hence, sunlight is the driving force of the cells of our body. So when our cells are alive and highly oxygenated, including the mysterious dynamic marriage between the plant and the sun, will literally change and transform our body and also affect the way we think. What we eat affects the way we act, the way we think, and the way we look. Particularly the other night when I just, overdid it. I just was sluggish the next day. I just didn't feel good. So when you're juicing or you're eating more of a living food diet, you're going to notice that you're going to be thinking better. You're going to be more relaxed. It's just this mystery between between the sun and the plant. And the fruit, let's not forget the fruit. I mean, the fruit is the gift from the tree, the gift from the plant. This is something that is so mystical and so important, and none of us are talking about it. You know, where do we hear these things? You know, it's so refreshing for me when I hear people like from the Berkshire Benner Clinic in Europe talk about this dynamic relationship between the sun and the planet. It can't be spoken of enough. And these are the things, like when you start juicing, when you start seeing the difference in your life, then more knowledge comes to you. And the more knowledge that comes to you, the more we keep juicing, or the more we keep eating good whole meal salads, or we start eating more fruits because of this relationship that we can't really quite understand, but it's doing magic in our bodies. Okay, let me get to the next part here. So okay, this is the part I want to get to next. Yeah, good, this is working. I'm saying things that I already had written down. Okay, so as Americans, I don't know what it's like in Europe or in other parts of the world, but as Americans, we eat, if you can believe this. I want to make sure I get this right because I want to read this. We only eat 15 pounds of plant life a year, but yet we consume up to 800 pounds of animal products per year. 800 a year versus 15. It's no wonder we are riddled with obesity and heart disease and liver disease and kidney disease. Constipation is another big, huge thing. I mean, you just start eating this way and juicing this way, your bowels are going to love you, your intestines are going to love you, you're going to start eliminating twice a day. There's other things we can do as well, not just the greens. I'm talking about just eating a more living food diet. I mean, I do flax seeds. This is also helps move the bowels, chia seeds, but we can get into that later. So why are we eating 800? I'll tell you the reason why. As Americans, we're eating this 800 pounds versus 15 pounds. The reason why is because we're stressed out. We're working too hard. We have children to raise, and everywhere we go, especially now that I'm back in a big city, every single corner has fast food restaurants, you know, Jack in the Box, Burger King, and now they're going out all around the world, Kentucky Fried Chicken. And we're so tired of, you know, of just feeling tired. And with, oh, I'll just have a burger. I'm so hungry. I can't do what I need to do unless I eat. So this gets into be like a really bad habit. And when we eat that way, then we're not craving greens. We're not craving a salad. We're not craving juices because our palate is really being ruined, as well as our body. And our body is the most precious thing we have on earth. Our relationship with God is the most precious, but our relationship with our body, how we treat our body, is so important. And we only have one body. And when we get older, you know, I know you guys know I'm 66, but you know, I remember when Jay was 66. He didn't look 66. He didn't act 66. He was playing racquetball, you know, 2 hours a day with 25-year-old kids. And I mean, we shouldn't be old in our 50s and 60s and 70s. Now, are we going to age and die? Yes. But let's honor our bodies. Let's love our bodies. And the way we do that is to be in harmony with nature. So important. Okay, so I got that part done. Now, I want to show you a picture. This is a really interesting story. So you see, can you guys see this picture right here? It's on page 30. This is such an important little story I want to share with you. This is a picture of Jay's mother and father. And they're at like a little health fair, and the health fair was honoring them because they were in their hundreds. Now, how did Jay's parents get to be 100 years old and still be healthy and still be vital and still have a garden and still manage their life in their own home? They're not in a nursing home. They never were in a nursing home. They lived in a small little, humble little house in San Pedro, California, which is the Los Angeles Harbor area. They came from Yugoslavia. They immigrated to this country like my grandmother did. And they had a garden during Jay's whole life. Of course, I think they were born in the 1890s. So this was a normal thing back then. You know, after World War II, everything changed. We stopped growing gardens. But they ate extremely well. They were from Yugoslavia, which is very sort of like Italian, you know. So what did they do? They had a lot of vegetables, a plethora of different kinds of vegetables. They had their own garden. They had lots of greens. I remember visiting his mom and dad when his dad turned 103. He was still out in the garden picking parsley, and they had a very small garden. I mean, it wasn't like they had this huge garden. It was probably 8 foot square, you know, and so it wasn't like an exotic garden that, you know, that would throw most people off by saying, well, I could never grow a garden like that. I mean, his parsley was growing under a tree. It was amazing. So what made them so healthy? Well, they kept busy, they kept active, they drank a lot of juice, of course, because it's in their relationship with Jay. They ate a lot of fruit and they ate a lot of vegetables, and they cooked a lot of pasta. But I guess I'm not a pasta fan, but you know what? When you're doing 75% good and 25%, you know, things like breads and pastas and things like that, it's not going to hurt you. I mean, it's just not. And you can see by that photograph how sweet they were. And so every Sunday we used to go visit them because we lived in San Diego, and we'd come in and bring our juicer, and his mother would always say, "Svaki dan, Johnny, svaki dan." And what that means in Slavic language is every day, Johnny, because Jay's real name is John. Every day, Johnny, meaning that, well, don't worry, we juice every day. So you see, this is our heritage. We're not meant to live forever. This is a body that the good Lord has given us to experience life and to learn forgiveness and to learn to love and to have a family and to learn to enjoy the things that are given to us so freely. But we're not meant to live forever, but let's live the best life we can as his parents lived into their early, well, his mother died when she was 99. And his dad died when he was almost 104. So, but they had a good life, you know, they had their own home. They had their own wonderful, I think 30 grandchildren and 15 great-grandchildren, and I think a couple of great-great-grandchildren. So this is the gift we are given when we live through the beautiful life of nature. Okay, so the next part, I'm not going to go too much into this part because it's called Going Green in 90 Days. And this is just right here. We talk about the 3 phases, and this is quite, this is a real personal thing. And the reason why it's personal, oh gosh, I hope I don't have any people waiting. Okay, I think we're fine. Sometimes some people get upset because they're in the waiting room and I forget to look over here because I get so involved in being with you guys. So I don't think I have anybody waiting. Okay, so this is a personal thing for you. If you have been eating a poor diet all your life and you really want to change, this is really good. This will take you to the first month, phase 1, which starts to eliminate the sodas and the cooked foods, the heavily cooked foods. And when I talk about heavily cooked foods, I'm talking about steaks and things like that. And also removing things like sugars in our diet. I mean, like candy bars and cookies and cakes and donuts and all that. So we start slowly eliminating those. And then when we get into phase 2, we remove breads. Then we get into phase 3. Then we start substituting things like natural sweeteners, you know, like maybe a little bit of honey instead of white sugar. Date sugars would be good. Coconut sugars would be good. Stevia. I'm not a real big fan of stevia. I think it's just way too sweet. I'm not really fond of it. And then replace coffee with herbal teas like peppermint, chamomile. And if you find a good herbalist, you can get some really good herbal teas for your liver, for example, or your kidneys or your heart. They're really good at this. And even Chinese herbalists are excellent in case you have some trouble. So these 3 phases are really, really important. And then after that, we have another personal thing called Take the Test. Take the test. This is how you can find out sort of where you're at. Like, okay, I want to start juicing. I want to eat better, but I don't know what to do. The first 3 phases are going to help you do that. But also before you do the phases, I'd like you to take the test. And this is personal for you. And if you don't have the book, I have the book, by the way, on what is it called? As an ebook. Sorry about that. As an ebook. And so even if you don't live in the United States or you live far away, I can send you that ebook. I'll send that to you for free. No problem. If you want the ebook, just email me at linda@juicymasterclass.com. Okay. And here's a picture of Jay and me and our children. This is when they were little. They were raised in juicing ever since they were born. John was born. He had colic so bad. And so I started him on half steamed distilled water and half fresh carrot juice. Bingo, helped within a month, was totally fine. So these kids have been on juicing. Now they're 30, gosh, Jason's 35 and John is 37. And their wives love them. Do you know why? Because they juice for their wives all the time. And they cook, because I taught my children how to cook when they were 10 and 12. And they loved it. I taught them how to make salads and how to cook vegetables the best way possible, and what tofu was like, and all these wonderful things. And we just had a wonderful time cooking together. This is something we just don't do enough of as Americans, and maybe even in other civilized countries. We just don't, and we should. It's so much fun. Okay, so let's see. Let me get to my next notes here. Okay, so I got all that done. That's great. I got this done too. Okay. Now, I want to talk about something sort of serious. You know, I've had such an incredible life, a really huge, successful life, and then a huge traumatic life, losing our teaching for many, many years. And that was very difficult through corporate greed and all that. You guys, if you read my book, the Jay Kordich life story, Isn't Life Beautiful? You'll read all about our lives. You're just going to be shocked. But before I married Jay, I came from a traumatic childhood. I don't want to get into it because I've forgiven my parents, but it was very, very difficult, and a lot of trauma and a lot of betrayal and a lot of abandonment, a lot of abuse. And the worst part of it was when I married Jay, I was disowned by my entire family. So I was almost 25 years without any family member. And so when I was growing up, I learned how to become what they call anorexic, because I didn't want to have a curvy body. I've always had a curvy body. So when I went into puberty, I started growing breasts, and I didn't like that. I wanted to be safe. So I quit eating when I was about 17, and I just would only eat a few crackers a day. I lost about 60 pounds. I was 60 pounds, let's say 150. I lost about 50 pounds. And then that turned into bulimia, and I never understood what was wrong until many years later. And so one thing that I'm an expert in this lifetime at my age is helping people get out of food addictions. And this is very difficult because we have to eat in life. And so by the time I met Jay, I had, let's see, what's the word for it? I was really sick. And one of the things that he gave me when we got married was the love. And he just cherished me. And I had never really felt cherished in my whole life. I had never really felt loved, or that I was valuable, or that I had a voice. And so, of course, all the food habits just kind of fell to the wayside. And then I realized that love is the most powerful ingredient that we have in life, by far more important than anything. And forgiveness, of course, is second. But what I learned is that he taught me how to juice. Of course, I've been juicing my whole life, believe it or not, ever since I was a little girl. But we weren't juicing with love. We weren't juicing with, oh, isn't this beautiful? Look at these beautiful vegetables. It was like, oh, we have to juice because we have to stay healthy. But to me, that wasn't healthy. Healthy was feeling valuable, feeling like it was a contribution to the family, feeling like I had significance in my family, as one of 3 children, and feeling loved and cherished. These are all things that as parents, we can give our children that don't cost a penny. So the reason why I'm going into this is because if you have any friends, or if you're struggling with just overeating or struggles with food, I can help you. And what I did to get over it was 50% of it was gone by the time I had married Jay, and realized that, oh my God, I don't need to eat this way, because the anxiety and the trauma that I had gone through was sort of losing its power over me. And the food addiction, either not eating or eating too much, was my way of coping with the anxiety. It was the only way I could cope with this incredible fear and trauma that was covering my body and my soul, my heart. So what I learned, even at 25, when I married Jay, I learned something really valuable. And that was that foods change the way we think. So when I was eating salads, or I was juicing with Jay, or eating more fruit, they weren't triggers. For some reason, they were feeding my soul. And that, combined with feeling loved and cherished, was so valuable to me. And that took about maybe 5 years to really completely overcome it. The anorexia and bulimia stopped immediately, but the mental challenges that I was facing, it took a couple of years of therapy and a lot of love by Jay for it to just go away. So that's why I come from real experience that food really affects the way we think and act. Okay. All right. So now the next thing I want to talk about is, we already talked about the power up with superfoods, which is the chlorella and the green barley and the wheatgrass and all that. So here we get into the food addiction part, which is what I just talked about, and how you can unwind from that. It's all here laid out beautifully in the book. Exercise is so important. Being in the sunshine is so important. Staying busy is very important. And juicing is going to change the palate of your mouth. Okay, I can't stress this enough. It's so valuable, because when we juice, it's teaching our body to crave things like greens and vegetables and fruits. But when we eat more cooked foods, we want to eat more cooked foods. It's like our tongue becomes dead, and all we do is we just search for the emotional hit. Okay, oh, I want this, or I have to have that, and oh, I need this and I need that because I'm feeling anxiety or I'm feeling stressed out or whatever. And it's just making it worse. So when we start to juice, it will literally transform the way we crave foods. And this can happen within just days, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, something like that. And that can also be your husband or your mate or your partner in life. You just don't even bug them. Don't bother them to change. Just give them the juice, and that will slowly start opening doors. I've seen this thousands of times. We have literally we have literally worked with thousands of people, millions of people. Jay affected their lives, but we have worked for many, many years with thousands of people. It's always the same. Well, my husband won't juice, or my husband doesn't want to eat well, or my husband won't juice. Well, just make the juice and okay, just try a little bit, and then they try it and they go, that was kind of good. And little by little, give them a little bit more, and then let them decide. That can also be the same case for children. Okay. So the other thing we stress in our life to be healthy is a simple life is the best life. As Americans, particularly, we overstress, we overdo, we overbuy, we overconsume. But if we just start to unwind a little bit, and stop the insanity of all the too many things, and just start blending in with nature and attracting ourselves to natural things, and going out in the sun, riding our bikes or taking walks, or looking at the sky, being appreciative of nature, the clouds, the wind, the birds, the animals, the way the trees blow in the wind. I mean, these are amazing healing factors that make so much a difference. Like, for example, I'll give you another example. My mother was a complete fanatic with food when I was a little girl. This is how I got involved with juicing in 1965. I mean, but nothing worked for her. And you know why? Because she wasn't living a loving life. She married the wrong person. She had these 3 children. She hated her life. Nothing ever was good to her. She had no gratitude. I mean, I love my mother dearly, but I'm just telling you the raw facts. She had a very narrow point of view, but ate perfectly. But you see, it's the best way to live into our 70s and 80s and 90s is to love life, love people, forgive those who hurt us, love nature, and eat well. This is the magic ingredient. And this is how Jay lived. It's such a, Jay would have lived way into his hundreds had we not suffered so many challenges in our lives with the billion-dollar litigation. It just killed him. They took away all of his teachings. I just don't want to get into it. It's still painful. Yeah. Because I think he would have lived a lot longer. But you know, when he died, God bless him, he died a healthy man. It was just a leak in his small intestine. No one had recognized it. He had no disease. Yeah, even despite the losses, he was still very happy man because he, had our children and he had me. So anyway, okay, I don't want to get into this emotional thing with you guys. It's painful, but I'm just being honest. Okay, I can't believe it. I think I got it. I think I got it all. Gratitude is our greatest healer. Okay, so I'll read you this last thing about the tree. And this is the last part of the chapter. It says, a tree will only sense your presence if you sit under the tree and not move for 5 days. It will only then see you for an instant, but it will feel you. Amazing, isn't it? We go so fast in life. We miss so much. When we learn to slow down, not only will we discover so much more to nature and natural foods and natural living, we may discover a person you haven't ever seen since childhood, and that would be you. Okay, so that's it for this chapter. Our next chapter is called Enzymes, the Fountain of Youth, and this is actually going to be a short chapter, but really important. So I may only take about 30 minutes on this chapter. And let's see, after that, we're really going to get into juicing and living foods. I'm going to take you deeper into the kitchen. We're going to be doing super salads and more juices and things like that when we get into the second half of the book. Okay, now, does anybody have any questions? And if you don't want, yeah, go ahead, honey.
I accidentally brought the spirulina tablets instead of the
okay.
powder for smoothies. Can you use these in a smoothie instead of the powder?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And they're actually better in the cup or the caplet or the little round form, because you can also swallow them with water if you don't want to do a smoothie.
That's what I've been doing, just taking like 1 or 2 a day, because I didn't know you can put it in a smoothie and like chop it up.
Teresa, I'm so glad you brought that up, because the truth is that they're really powerful for the bloodstream. The fastest way really to start cleaning out and eating up all those ugly things in our bloodstream. And also one time, my mother came to visit me about 3 years ago. Now she's 88. My dad's 88. Believe it or not, they're still married. And I completely love both my parents now. It's just been a beautiful healing experience. But she came to visit me because there was a really terrific meditation course that I wanted her to take. And she actually came all the way from San Diego to Wisconsin with my brother. And we're sitting around the coffee house, and I'm drinking peppermint tea and everybody else is drinking, whatever they're drinking. My mom said, "Oh, Linda, I brought my spirulina tablets with me." And I said, "Okay." She goes, "I take 10 a day." And I said, "10 a day, Mom? Really?" She goes, "Yeah. I take 10 a day in the morning, and yada, yada, yada." Now she's come a long way. Okay. But she takes them. And I said, "Okay, well, I'll take 10. Now I hadn't really had taken spirulina in a couple of years because I'm such an avid juice person. I'm telling you, within a 10-minute period, I was so nauseated that I felt like I was like green at the gills. I actually had to go into the bathroom and I threw up, because I probably took more than 10, to be honest. I just took this handful that she handed me. And so this is what will happen. As I said in the beginning of our class today, be careful with the dark greens. Start off slowly. Everybody is different. And otherwise, you're going to have a bad reaction. And what happens when we have a bad reaction to things? We don't do them anymore. Okay, so that was a great question, Teresa.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments? Chioma, do you have anything you'd like to say? Okay. Oh, there's another thing. I've gotten involved with a new company. It's called APL Go. And it's a network marketing company. I've never been involved in network marketing before, but I love their products. Jay would have loved their products. And I sort of want to build a tribe and a network of women, or even men too, of course, where we can sort of get involved with each other, help each other out, and also share the product. And I really like it. It's the first time in 30 years that I've been involved. And if you've ever heard of, oh gosh, what's the name of it? Oh God, I can't remember the name of the first green capsules and vegetable juice capsules that came out in the 90s. Actually, one of our partners started that and they wanted Jay and I to get involved. And I said, no way, I'm not going to get involved in network marketing. It's going to really dilute Jay's teaching, which at that time I think was true. But now it's different. Now we're kind of stuck at home a little bit. Now everyone can use a little bit more money, but the reason why I'm doing it is because I love the product and I really want to stay in this network of people with like minds. And this is the reason why I started the Zoom class, because I want to connect with people. It's one thing to write on Facebook and Instagram and all that, but it's one-dimensional. You don't really know me. You don't really know my background or who I am as a human being. You just see this, this picture. So I want to expand my love for all of you and my interest in sharing what I know. After this 8-part class that I'm doing on the book, I think I'm going to do also some Zoom classes on showing different kinds of juicers and blenders and what I like and what I don't like about them. I think this will be helpful. And if you have any ideas of how you'd like me to share what I know on anything, I'd love to hear it. Okay. All right. Love you guys. Thank you for coming. And if you want more information on APL Go, just write to me. Did you want to say something, Teresa?
Oh, I just wanted to thank you. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Okay. Love you all dearly. You're all-
Thank you, Linda. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay,
so
bye.
much, Linda. This was fantastic.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I love the book. I love you. And
I love you too. Oh, thank you.
It was great hearing your story.
Oh, thank
Yes.
you. Yeah, it'll be 2 weeks from today that we'll get together again. And God bless you all. Love you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.